Hello, mate.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm recovered. Well, recovering, should we say?
Not really,
How
are
are
you?
you? I'm all right, bud. How are you?
Very well, man. Very well. Yeah, Premi's got a fiery one happening at the moment, man. So I said to him, join ours, join ours. So let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Nim will join when she joins. I've just let her know. But got a few people which are brilliant. Some of you guys I know. We got FPL Lens, Gabriel, top guy, pretty much a friend now. Got Bez, the M, Mike, Nuclear Atoms, mate. Good to have you on. I hope you're well, pal. I hope you're well. After your recent news. Got Pramod, we got Westside, we got a guy who has no name, so it's good. What we'll do is we'll probably wait a little bit and and then eventually when Nympria comes, probably start with a bit of an icebreaker, Dan. Probably just for her, just a bit of a word game, just what you think of when you hear this word, and we'll go through the questions, and then we'll just open it up to the public speaking. Does that sound good, Dan?
Yeah, sounds good, mate.
Fantastic. Got Kanate on, we got JLP, we got Lama, Dan. Good to see you, FPL Dan, man. Looking forward to seeing you at the fest, bud. We can have a cider together. So that should be fun as well. Got Andy Martin, Leeds fan. Andy, I don't think you're the Leeds correspondent anymore, mate. I think I did a good job earlier when they were asking me about Leeds United. So it's always a pleasure because, as you know, Leeds are my second team. I absolutely adore them. So yeah, but I'm probably going to mute for just a couple of minutes, guys, and just prepare a little bit. So, yeah, please just stay around. We've got FPL fledgling as well. Great to connect with you recently, pal. I'm just a massive fan of your memes, so it's excellent. But yeah, we'll just give it a couple of minutes and then I'll rejoin. All right, guys. So, Premi was kind enough to say that he'll kind of wrap up his space and then probably have a few eyeballs come in now. But while we're waiting, Dan, how is your wildcard planning going? Because I know both of us are kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum of what we're doing.
Do you know what? I wasn't expecting it to be this hard, actually. Um, I was
That's
always
what she
planning
said.
to. Oh, mate, I was right. I've always was planning on wildcarding in game week 8, and I pretty had the team set how I want it, how I wanted it to be for. And I mean, I'm looking at my team now, and I'm literally like a 5-2-3. I'm literally parking the bus. Um, but it's whether I'm going double City, double Chelsea. Then you got Son, then Foden's in the mix, then Huang and Jimenez. These are all the little. Um, this is all what's going around my head right now. But I think I'm pretty set. I think I'm pretty set. You know. But no, it's not going too bad. What about you, mate?
Yeah, before we get Nim on, because it's great that she's on now. Yeah, I think I'm almost there, but it's like every 5 minutes, I'm kind of like, ooh, what about this guy? It's kind of like, a
Yeah,
shiny new toy. I'm like, ooh, I want a piece of this one.
yeah.
And I think ultimately the predicament I'm in is, do I go for a Foden because I'm an idiot and I can't help but be seduced by these midfield
I
athletes?
can't believe you're going. Yeah, you've been telling me all season don't touch the
I
City
know,
midfielders,
or
and now
look at me. I'm just a shell
Like
of
a
a man.
moth to the flame.
I really am. I really, really am. So, on that note, Nimfria, thank you so much for joining us
Hello.
today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm brilliant, Dan.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, I've been poorly all week. Last week,
Oh
so I'm
no.
slowly recovering. I've had the man flu, which is it's definitely a thing.
Oh, you definitely don't need that on international break, do you? That's not the time to catch that.
No, it's not great at all.
So, Dan, would it be okay if you just mute for a sec, pal?
Mhm.
Thank you very much. So, for those of you that don't know, and why wouldn't you? Because that would just be ridiculous. Nimfria, first of all, is a friend. I value her very highly as a friend, but just a bit more on her. So, she has an absolutely brilliant YouTube channel. And that's pretty much where my inception to FPL kind of got in regards to getting a bit more exposure. She kind of is the host of at FPL Wildcats and was kind enough to invite me on one day. Apparently, I did a half decent job and then became a member. And from there, we kind of became friends from there. She also has, she's a brilliant graphic designer and she designed my banner, which I absolutely adore, as she knows, because it's a rendition of one of my favorite cartoon characters in Frieza. Because I'm a 37-year-old man that loves cartoons, yes. So, Nymphria, how was that for an introduction before we
Oh,
start?
that was amazing. Thank you. I'll come back more often.
So, Nim, just to tell you that Dan is the founder of At the FPL Way, where
Yeah.
pretty much it's all things FPL under one roof. And about 2 months ago, I kind of joined the team just to manage the project a bit. And fortunately, he and also Fantasy Silver, who's also the co founder, who's also in the space, they offered me a position pretty much to be head of ops. So we've been working together ever since then. So Dan is, he's the founder of that idea. So we're definitely looking to push that. So by having you on today, we're hoping, of course, we'll get a few more eyeballs on there. So once again, really appreciate you joining, buddy.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, when you ask, I listen, and that, and we've been friends now for some time, as you say, and I'm all about helping the FPL community out and doing what I can to lift other content creators up. And it's not an easy world out there, and when you first start out, it can feel very scary. So whatever I can do to help, really, not that I class myself as being massive, but I've been around for a little while, so hopefully I can embark some experience and help onto others that need it.
Fantastic. So before we really start, let's break the ice a little bit. So we'll do a bit of word association here as well. So I'm going to shout out a word, and then you tell me your first thought. Preferably, it could be FPL or it could be whatever you want. So are you ready, Nick?
This could be dangerous.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Troll.
Oh. See, I just think of like the little plastic things with the colourful hair when you said like yeah, literally just think of the little
You
toys.
think of the dolls, yeah? All right, all right, all right. I thought you were going to say like
I-
Zaha
I'm
or someone like that.
I'm an 80s child.
Likewise, likewise.
So,
Okay.
the toys come to mind. But yeah, if we're thinking FPL, then
Whatever you want.
probably Wilson. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Wilson. Oh, geez, guys.
Yeah. I love
Wait.
hate relationship with that guy.
You know what, guys? For those who joined, you're very welcome. We got Dan Bennett as well, who we're going to do a space with next week. Brilliant guy and Hall of Fame number 12 in FPL. The guy's ridiculously good at this game. But please make sure to be following Nymphria, and especially you got to see every time Wilson plays or scores a goal, she always puts the castaway meme of Wilson. It's absolutely brilliant. So
I mean,
okay,
it was made for him. It was
it
made
was,
for him.
it was. Okay, so we got the troll Dolly, which I didn't expect when I said troll. So trap.
Oh, Man City players. Or Man City attackers, more specifically.
Absolutely. I'll do two more and then we'll get going. King.
Kingy. Wilson's last partner at Bournemouth and is now at Watford, I believe. Or was it Norwich? No, Watford. Watford. I want to say Watford.
Yeah, Josh King.
Kingy, yeah.
Fantastic.
But there's Mo as well. But that was too obvious.
Pain.
Last game week. Last game week was pretty painful.
Brilliant. And finally, pleasure.
A triple captain haul when you get it.
Tell me about
it. That's pretty up there. Or just Jota starting and scoring is pretty good at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. So we've got a few more coming in. Skywalker, who's got the brilliant Wildcard kit extension on Windows Chrome. It's unbelievable.
Do go check him out. Check him out. Amazing work.
Got McTavius. Guys, what I'm going to ask at the moment is please don't request just yet. So Giovanni, don't request just yet because we have a few questions for Nympria, a little bit on her thoughts for game week 8. And then after that, we'll open up the questions. So Nympria, now that I asked those questions, I believe you're probably a little loose now. Yeah, you feeling good? Loosey-goosey? Yeah?
Yeah,
you ready
go
now?
on. Go on, I'll try my
best. What are your plans for game week 8?
Okay, so at the moment, I'm not planning to wildcard because we've had some pretty decent news in terms of most of my team that was rainbow coloured is looking a little bit less scary than it was a couple of days ago now with seeing Lukaku in training. There's a bit of news that Rafinha could potentially feature. I doubt it, but he could feature. Trent is back by the looks of things. Klopp is saying that Jota is fine. So a fair few of my squad that was looking quite shaky at the beginning of international break is looking a bit better now. So I think it's just going to be a -4 to sell probably Greenwood now that I know that Jota stands a chance of starting. Down to probably somebody like Mbeumo because I really want some cash in the bank. And then I think I'm going to sell Shaw, who I've been trying to get rid of forever now, to Cancelo. I think that's the plan at the moment.
Brilliant. Before we go to the questions from some of the people on the tweet, Dan, was there anything you want to ask Nympria or share with her or anything like that, bud?
Yeah, so if you're not wildcarding this week, when are you thinking of wildcarding?
So I thought I was going to have a specific week in mind. And to be honest, it past game week 3 and me actually really liking my team and doing quite well in the first 3 game weeks. And then obviously international break was the next kind of earmarked time to potentially wildcard. And since I've got here, and if I can, I guess, limp through game week 8 and somehow come out of it either not losing too much rank or potentially, doing well out of it, then I think the wild card is going to be a case of pushing it down the line. So just whenever I really need it, I'm trying not to kind of lock myself in because I have found with quite a few people is that they've kind of earmarked and stuck a pin in the wall. This is when I'm definitely wildcarding. And it's kind of locked them into a bit of a box. And now they're feeling like, oh, I have to wildcard because that's when I said I was going to wildcard, or I've made these transfers because I know I'm wildcarding the week after. And then all of a sudden they're sat at a team, they're thinking, oh, should I really be wildcarding this team? So I think if I had another really rubbish game week in game week 8 and I took a really big rank hit there, then I would look at it because I would need to think whether or not my team was strong enough to take me forward and where I was missing out. But for the moment, I'm pretty happy with the squad. So I think I'll just take it as far as I can take it, really. But I do like the fixture swing, kind of 14, 15. So ideally, if I could hold on to that, then I would like to. But I'm not going to cut my nose off to spite my face if I feel like I need to use it beforehand.
Brilliant. Dan, was there anything else you want to add to that, pal, or shall I move to the next phase?
No, you can move into the next one, mate.
Fantastic. So once again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. We've got quite a few really top people. Again, more importantly than great FPL content, just solid people in this space already. So much appreciated. After I ask these questions, of course, then we'll kind of open the floor a bit. So Aria, Fantasy, don't worry, we're going to get you in, but not quite yet. I just want to go through these questions first. So we're going to start with FPL Sonaldo, Anyang SAO, one of the best moderators in the game in Spaces, and recently a phenomenal Sun and Huang thread, which has just blown up. So, yeah. So, Nymphia, of course, these questions are for you. Awesome guest. Wondering how at FPL Nym first got into FPL and how she reacts to a bad game week. Now, I know this privately, but maybe you could tell.
Yeah, so I got into FPL at university. One of my friends in my friendship group who I met at uni was the only one who was really into football. Everyone else in my kind of group of friends wasn't really kind of into football at all. And I'd been grown up in an Arsenal Spurs household my whole life, and so big Arsenal fan, and would mainly just kind of watch match of the day to see how Arsenal are doing. But you know, most weekends I was hanging out over their house. One of the guys, he'd be watching match of the day, and I was like, you're into football, and he was like, yeah. So we just got chatting. He was like, and I play this online fantasy game, and I was like, oh, okay. He was like, would you like to play? I can stick us in a league together. And I was like, all right. And I think he thought I might be easy fodder at the time because I had no idea what I was doing, and I actually went on to win the league and just got a bit hooked from there, really. And we've kind of kept our little friendship group going and our little mini league going, and a few of the friends have kind of gathered and joined as the years have gone on, and it kind of just went from there, really. A couple of years ago, I had quite a successful graphic design business, and I was enjoying it, but I was really enjoying the FPL more, and I'd been creating FPL content as a bit of a hobby. And my dad got quite unwell with cancer, and we had a big discussion at the time, and he kind of said to me, do whatever you want to do. You only get one chance at all of this, and if you love it, go for it. And it was at that point I decided I would give up my quite successful graphic design business and have a go at playing FPL for a living. And so far it's gone okay.
That's brilliant, Nim. Really deep story, actually, where basically it's like, I'm not being cheesy here, but kind of follow your dream and what you want. And I think so far you haven't done, you're doing, because I know you're never satisfied. That's the best way of saying it. I guess the second part of that question is how do you react to a bad game week?
Yeah, so before I used to get very stressed out about it. When you become a content creator, there's a lot of pressure to do well, and you can kind of fall into two camps with content creation. So you can be the kind of content creator that does extremely well, and so everyone follows you because you do really well, or you can be an entertainment kind of content creator. And I think I've always fallen in that second category to some extent, is that I've always just wanted to, whilst I think I'm quite good at giving advice, I've always just wanted people to come along on my journey with me and have a lot of fun watching, what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And some weeks being batshit crazy, and some weeks laughing, and some weeks crying, and all of those sorts of things. But I think really even if you fall into that second camp, you do put a lot of pressure on yourself to still try and put up a front that that you can play the game. And actually, since I've started content creating, I've done awful in the game. My OR, I actually knew very little about OR before joining the FPL community because I was a mini league player. And so whilst I obviously seen that there was an overall ranking, it was nothing very important to me. And I had 2 accounts back in the day, when it was more acceptable to do so. And I actually deleted an account that had some ridiculous OR finishes and stuck to one account, following all of the situation where we had to then have one account. And yeah, threw away the FPL account that had all the great history on it. But yeah, this particular one has done all right, but since content creating not so well. And more recently, I've dealt with bad game weeks much better than what I used to. So in the past, it used to really freak me out because I'd be like, oh, well, people are listening to my advice, they're watching my channel, I don't want to let them down. But I think there comes a time where you have to realize that, people don't mind that a lot to the extent because they know a lot of it is luck and a lot of it has nothing to do with no matter how many stats you give or how much great advice you give. If that player doesn't turn up that week, he just doesn't turn up. And so it's about being kind to yourself. And I've been a lot kinder to myself this season when things have gone wrong than what I have done previously.
Absolutely brilliant. Dan, is there something you want to kind of add to that or ask Nymphria around her bad game weeks before I move to question 2?
No, that's fine, mate. You can carry on.
Okay, fantastic. Before we go to question 2, guys, please make sure to follow Nymphria at FPL Nym. Follow myself if that's okay, Ray. Also Dan, and also at the FPL Way, our one-stop shop for everything FPL. You're probably going to hear those cheap plugs constantly. Question number 2 from FPL Down Under Sam. Also another incredible space moderator, one of the top 3 easily. How are you going to navigate the pep roulette? Cashing your chips in the midfield or defense? Question mark.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, I think the plan is to get Cancelo this week. And then I'm going to play it by ear a little bit, I think, in terms of City. I'd like to see whether Foden gets a few more starts. Obviously now with Torres with Torres's injury, it'll be interesting to see who Pep slides in there. I do like the idea of potentially KDB if he's going to be, starting every week now, which you'd expect that he would be now that he's back from injury. So he's a potential kind of option. But yeah, at the moment, I'm kind of staying away, knowing I've got that wild card in the pocket. And if it looks like it's becoming unavoidable to have one of them, then I will definitely look to move to get whichever one looks safest at the time.
So currently you're Cityless, am I right?
I'm Cityless at the moment. I should have Cancelo by the weekend, I would have thought. And then from there, I will decide on my attack depending on, like I said, I should have some money left in the bank by selling Jota or Greenwood to Mbeumo. So then I can think maybe a little bit on upgrading the other one of those up to a City midfielder if I feel like one of them is more nailed or looks particularly good.
Brilliant. Dan, was there anything you wanted to add to that, pal?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty looking into Man City's defenders, and stupidly enough, I think I'm going to be going into the midfield bracket as well. I'm not 100%, but I've not had a very good. I started off with Mahrez in game week 1, and obviously it tells the story. Didn't do great at all, and then I jumped on Torres. I swapped literally Mahrez to Torres. It sounds bad, but at the time it sounded quite reasonable because he was doing pretty well.
Yeah, he was doing quite well. I don't dislike that back in the day.
Yeah, and then literally when I got Torres, he started getting benched. So
no, so it's all your fault.
So it's all my fault, basically. Yeah, it is. And
He
now,
broke him.
some stupid enough, I think I'm looking at Foden, but I feel like it might be a little bit different this time. I think because it looks like Jesus will probably not be back in time or be back ready to start, and then Torres is out for a month, injured. So I think there's an opportunity for Foden to get a good run of games, and especially this Burnley fixture, which Man City love, probably their favourite fixture. So in terms of in terms of defenders, I'm looking at Cancelo and Diaz, and I am looking at Foden, but I'm not 100% sure.
Do you know who I really like, who nobody's really talking much about, is Walker. So he's just ticking away nicely. If you can't quite get to a Diaz or a Cancelo, I actually feel like, that Walker may just be kind of one that you could consider as a potential. Okay, obviously it's Pep Roulette. There is a potential that he may not kind of get every week, but at the moment he's had the minutes and he's been playing. So, it's not a terrible stretch if you were really struggling and you really wanted a City defender to have a little bit of a plump for that, especially if you really wanted to get rid of Shaw, but you really had no weight, or you really didn't want to get rid of somebody, up front in midfield to free up the funds, for instance. I don't dislike it as a shout.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I guess it's the same position as Laporte in Walker. If you could go between the two, I think Walker is the more. I think he's the more defensive player now. As the years has gone by.
Oh, yeah, I think he won't be getting you any attacking points.
Yeah,
you really are just tapping into that City defence.
Yeah, and then you got Laporte. I don't know. I mean, he's played 7 games in a row now, and surely, Stones is not going to be sitting on the bench for the remainder of the season, isn't he? So it's
a lot of competitions to deal with, though.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
For me, I'm more of a nailed kind of safety kind of manager.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you've got the budget, then, you do it. And in this case, I'm trying to create the budget for Cancelo in order to have that security. But I'm just saying, if there's no other way, I don't dislike it as a bit of a punt.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, especially to free up some funds and spread around the team.
Brilliant. So before we go into the third question, guys, please start requesting to come in, because then I'm on it to be an open floor to ask them for you, or any of us, whatever you want. So please start hitting the requests. I'll add you as speaker, and then, of course, you'll get your moment to ask Nympria some questions. So question number 3 from FPL_Mike Halpin. Mike, good to have you in this space, pal. And this is funny, Nympria. This is almost transitioning from question 1 in regards to FPL. The way you play the game is, he's interested to know if you think being a content creator has changed the way you play the game.
Yeah. So hey, Mike, hope you're all right. Yeah, it has actually. Just following on from what I was saying in question number 1, it really does, I think, make you overthink everything that you do with FPL. So, before I was content creating, obviously the weekends were, if I was in, great, I'd watch some football, I'd, maybe check my FPL team, but, if I was out with friends or whatnot, it didn't seem to really kind of take over my life. Whereas now I think I find myself quite immersed in it regularly. And when you're content creating, you have to keep up with your socials and check everything that's going on so that you can report to people if there are injuries or if there are updates on those injuries and whatnot. And I think it can become quite easy to get bogged down in all of the information that you're seeing and taking it on board. And whether you want to or not, when you sit down to do your team, at the end of the day, that can have a bit of an impact on your decision making. So this season in particular, I've very much been quite specific about writing what I'd quite like to do once a game week is finished, the game week before, and I'm trying very hard this season to stick to that, which I haven't done in previous seasons when content creating. And it's just really helped because it's reminded me what my own thoughts were before I've been and soaked up like a sponge all of the social media information of FPL. And then I come back to it with fresh eyes and with more information, and I look at, what my thoughts were, and now I think I can be a bit more objective with it than what I was, say, in previous content creating seasons. So yeah, it definitely does have an impact, Mike. And I think you do play the game differently. Some people thrive on it, and other people can buckle under the pressure of it. And I'd say I've kind of experienced a bit of both over my couple of years of of doing it.
Brilliant. Dan, anything to add to that, pal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, actually. This is my first time writing content for the first time this season, and if you look at my rank history, it's appalling. This is the first time I'm taking this season quite seriously, and having to do content work. I feel like it's improving. I can only improve this year in regards of rank. So I think it's helping me big time. I think maybe in the next couple of seasons down the line, it might be a little bit different. Maybe I'll be challenging myself even more, and I've been putting myself under pressure on more content and streaming, etc. So yeah,
I think it's a double-edged sword, man. So if you do well this season, you'll probably find yourself like people will have followed you because they feel like you've done like really well. There'll be those kind of followers, and then so if you find yourself having a bad season next season, you'll come with the but you did quite well last season, so we expect that of you this season.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
I'll be putting the pressure on myself for the next couple of seasons now, so on, just to keep that consistency. I'm leaving my history behind, but I want it to be there as proof that this is the season where I'm fully concentrating and working hard to get. I mean, I can't not get at least half decent rank. If you don't even look at my rank. There's no point. But no, yeah, you're right. There's pressure, kind of, but I thrive on pressure. I want that consistency, and it's how people take you seriously, isn't it? That's the whole point of it.
I think that's it, though. I think there is a stigma amongst us content creators that there is that, but in actually talking to a lot of people, it reminds me that a lot of people just enjoy your journey. They enjoy watching your journey, and actually they absolutely love it when you have a horrific game week just as much as they love it when you have a great game, because it just reminds people that you're human as well, and that you're going through exactly what they've gone through as well, so try not to put too much pressure on yourself.
Sorry, I muted the whole time.
I was going to say, Ray's just left us.
You scared me there, Ray. I had to become a host.
Oh my god!
My god!
There's a very famous song from Yaz called "The Only Way Is Up." So Dan, I always think about you, buddy. Because you can't drop lower, my man.
I know. Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Guys, never doubt the dedication of Dan, because the man's literally dying from man flu, and he was good enough to just soldier through to this. We've had a few more people come on, so please, by all means, make sure to follow Nim, follow Dan, follow myself, and please follow at the FPL Way, your one-stop shop for all things FPL. So I've seen a few speakers, which is fantastic. One more question, and then, like I said, we'll open up the floor to the space for people to ask whatever they want to Nim Freer. So please start requesting, and I want to start letting people in. And then, as a few of you know, I kind of have the hand up action where to keep decorum up, really, because I am British. So, last question from FPL Dan. looking forward to this one. I am starting to think about opting against 4 at the back, but feel this fixture swing makes sense for TAA and 3 of Chelsea stroke City. Doing this and a small budget means having to say Armstrong stroke Huang over Tony. So I guess really, Mim, thoughts on the 3 versus 4 at the back, big defenders, so premium defenders, because it's definitely a prevalent topic right now, especially as there's so many wildcarders.
Yeah, so I did 5 things with Fergie, which came out today, and we actually discussed this in some detail. Both of us really tended to side on having the flexibility in our teams to be able to move our money around more easily. And what we found in the past is when we invest very heavily in defence, we almost find it harder to drop that money in defence and invest it further up than what we do vice versa. So I think I would tend to always side with going 3 at the back. I do like these fixtures. I can see why people are, heavily jumping into City and Chelsea defence at the moment. But it's just not for me because that's a lot of money in those players, and if they happen to blank, I feel like you might end up at a bit of a disadvantage over some others that may have invested that money more attackingly. Saying that, in this particular situation, if it's a decision between Huang and, say, Tony, that's a tougher one because we don't have all of the information yet on Huang, whereas we do know Tony's going to start, so it could put you in a situation where that extra funds would be allowing you a striker that's starting every week over a striker that isn't. But if we find out that Huang is getting full game time, then you haven't needed that cash anyway. So that's another reason why I'm kind of holding off on my wildcard, but I don't really feel like I've got full information on that particular front yet. But I'd always err on the flexibility side. And for me, once a clean sheet has gone out of your Chelsea or your City defence, unless you're quite confident that either of the players that you have in defence are attacking, then you could find yourself in a bit of a situation.
That's brilliant. Dan, anything to add on that? Because I know you and I have discussed about going big at the back as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same situation as well, where I'll go 4, or I'll go 3 or 4. I'm more drawn to going 3, and I've done a few drafts on the 4, but I'm not liking the balance really. So I'm also thinking as well. I've not owned a single Chelsea or Man City player all season, and that's all season, and so far I've done pretty well without them. But I understand the attraction of having them now. With the fixture swings, it's brilliant. So I'm more up for having the 3 at the back, and the way I'm looking at is having Trent, Cancelo, and Rudiger. And that's if Rudiger is available. We have to wait and see on that one. And in regards of Wang and Tony, I think Huang is an interesting player. He's definitely a punt, isn't he? We're not totally sure if he's nailed on. I do think he's going to get a fair few games in the long run. I mean, I live near Wolves, and I go to a local pub who's full of Wolves fans and season tickets, and they believe they believe he's nailed, and they believe he's going to get a good run. And they also complimented his link-up play with Jimenez. And we've also heard as well that in training they're trying to work on that link-up play and trying to get Huang more central. So it's an interesting one. It's definitely a punt. At the moment, Huang is in my team at the moment. But of course, if you have to go for Huang or Tony in your team, I think you have to go for Tony.
Okay, brilliant. All right, guys. So let's open the floor up a bit. So a few guys with cramp now from having their hand up the whole time. So let's start with FPL Junkie. Good evening, pal.
Hey, buddy. Nice to have you here. I've been so when I came and Dan was talking about not having a good season and he's taking FPL seriously. Um, it's a learning process. The way I look at it, I've been playing FPL for 7 years, and I've been lucky. Every season I play, I get better. So first time I played, I was at about 2.5 million. I ended up in the top 20K last season for the first time ever. So every season is a learning process. It doesn't matter if you're going hard at it or not. You learn from your mistakes. You look at people, look at their judgment. You try and understand what is best for the team, and that's how it should be, right? So each person has their own way to play the game. So it's okay, as long as you're trying and keeping track of what's happening around you. Sometimes you will have good weeks, sometimes you won't. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Second thing, I was just listening to you guys talk about Juan versus Tony. So there was a Spaces I was on a few days back, hosted by the Enablers show, which is FPL Ronaldo. I see him in this here as well. So I agree. Tony is a better option, but the chemistry between Juan and Jimenez is also important. Having said that, Ronaldo was saying the other day the match he had for Korea, he had an absolute shocker and he wasn't that good. But you never know. What happens at the country level doesn't necessarily have to happen at a club level. So you just take your chances on that. If I were you, or if I were to make a choice, I'd go with Tony. And the other thing was talking about going four at the back or three at the back. I rather prefer getting three defenders at the back and not too dependent on doubling up on any team. I know are playing good. You know, City have excellent fixtures, but I still won't go take two defenders at the back because one goal or you know, it just takes one error for that entire clean sheet to get wiped out. Having said that, last season I didn't have uh, Jones and Diaz, where Jones got that 20-pointer, and I dropped my rank pretty bad. So I'm going with three at the back for sure. Just those are my.
Cool, Junkie. Was there anything you kind of wanted to ask as well, or shall I move on?
Yeah. So everybody is talking about getting the premium players. I have Ronaldo, Lukaku, and Antonio up top. Okay, and my midfield has got midfielders like Saka, Benrahma, Rafinha. I'm trying desperately to get in either Trent or a City defender because I don't have one. So I just wanted to check whether Ronaldo should be the scapegoat and should I take a -4 and get Tony and Trent or DS, or should I just keep go on in Ronaldo because Ronaldo is people are getting rid of him, so he can be an enabler or maybe a differential because not too many people have him. So stick or twist with Ronaldo.
Nympria?
Yeah, this is a tough one because actually I think with the fixture swing, it's been quite easy for us to say, oh, if you're not a freemium person, it's quite easy for you to hop from one to the other so that you can catch the fixtures. But I think if you've got both of them, it's slightly tougher. And I do feel like since I sold Ronaldo, I kind of regret the fact that I sold Ronaldo. I'm happy to have Lukaku, obviously, for this run, but I still think that Ronaldo can easily do as well, as Lukaku, even despite his fixtures. But I think if you need the money elsewhere, then it does feel like Ronaldo is likely the better option to free up the cash out of the two just based on fixtures alone for the moment. That's probably just percentage wise as well, I think more people who aren't freemium will have moved to Lukaku for this stretch than they will have stayed on Ronaldo. As you say, it just really depends on how you want to play the game. If you want to play it so you've got a differential, then obviously you could risk that Ronaldo gets the same as Lukaku in this time. But if you want to try and stay with the crowd, which I tend to like to do at this point in the season, try and stay with the masses in case they happen to be on the correct road. That way it hurts less if something goes right or wrong. So I'd probably say, not that I love hearing this, obviously, or saying it, that Ronaldo's probably your way to get some cash at the moment out of the two.
Junkie, was there anything you want to say about that before we move on?
No, I just wanted to say, if I do get rid of Ronaldo, should I go with Jimenez or Tony? Because I'm thinking Jimenez would be a better option. The only thing I'm worried about is, will he be back in time from the Mexico game to play?
Nim, that's for you, and then we'll move on. And Dan, you give some feedback as well, bud.
It's a tough one, this, because I'm not actually 100% sure myself whether or not he gets back in time from the Mexico game, but there's no denying that he's definitely looking like he's getting back his confidence and his form. I don't dislike either. There's obviously a bit of cash between the two, so I would hold off until you have some news on Jimenez and then make the decision. I guess going Jimenez allows you potentially, if it's not working out, to then downgrade to Tony. Or if you want the cash right away in the bank for other moves further on, then Tony be your person to go for from the off.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Fantastic. Before we move on to Shanoisy, just to say, guys, we're probably going to be going on until maybe just after 8. So by all means, if you have any questions, please request, and I'll put you kind of in the queue of speakers. So Shanoisy, good evening. Thanks for waiting, pal. How are you?
Good evening, all. Hello. Thank you. Yeah, it's been really interesting. Hi, Freya. I enjoyed your 5 things with Fergie today. It's
thanks, buddy.
Good to watch. Actually, it's interesting. My question was more about, and not to disrupt the player conversation, it's more about FPL and mental health. But before I say the question, I just wanted to say to FPL Junkie, don't worry if you feel you're on your own with having Ronaldo and Lukaku, because I also have those two, as well as Antonio. So we're kind of in the same boat there. And on that front, I had a plan to kind of keep both of those. And the reason being, and this goes against the whole grain, but I'm not going to say because it's Ronaldo, but you're going to want him back from like game week 12 or at least 14, definitely, anyway.
Yeah.
And if you look at the games that he's playing, I know people go back to, I think, Juventus and say, he didn't do very well against the tougher teams. But there's 2 home games against Liverpool and Manchester City. And I just think it's worth keeping him for that. However, it's not to not to take away from, if you need the funds and you want to move the money elsewhere, I totally understand why people are doing it. But I'm not. And that's just what I'm doing. So moving on from that, my question about the mental health thing was really, I think FPL, especially in the last year or so, a lot of people have talked about how it's helped them through really tough times. And it may or may not be due to the pandemic, or it may be other things going on in people's lives. And we're all humans at the end of the day, and we've all got lives to live and families and pressures and difficulties and problems to deal with. And FPL can be an escapism for that. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate that when people have a bad week or a good week, and often people only gloat about when they have a really good, high scoring week, they'll share that and they'll talk about it. But how do you, as content creators, how do you cope with that? and what sort of things are you doing to help everyone in the community to just sort of have a balanced view of the fact this is a game? And I know it's difficult when you spend a lot of time engaging in information, and you're trying to digest it, you're trying to make a good decision, and then you blame yourself when it doesn't come out right. How are you coping with that, and how are you how can we help the people who are listening here to just kind of take a step back and say it's okay to have a bad week, because overall we're still just playing a game and it doesn't really matter. I know you just talked about ranks and what that means at the end of week 38, but does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? Probably not, or no, it doesn't. But yeah, how do you get that balance? What can we do to help everyone who's listening, everyone who's involved in this, just to kind of have a balanced view of what the game means to us? It's not to say or to take away from the excitement and the interest that we get when things go well, but also, it's okay to do badly occasionally. No, I shouldn't even say occasionally. It's okay to have a bad rank, because if you are continuing to have fun, I think that is the main thing. And that's it for me. I've only been playing for 3 years and I'm rubbish. I don't know anything about football, so I'm just enjoying the FPL for kind of pulling it together. Genuinely, I don't know anything about football, so yeah, that's my question. Hopefully, kind of you can dissect it from that.
Yeah, Nimfria, please offer some feedback, and then of course I have a bit of feedback as well. So Nim, after you, please.
Yeah, so just to take your first point on Ronaldo, I think if you have him and you've got the freemium, I do want to say that I absolutely have every respect if you want to keep him. I genuinely feel like he'll be a great option, as I said, for the coming weeks. So I don't think it's a bad option at all to keep hold of him. It's just out of the two if you're considering the cash, as you were saying. But moving on to the mental health bit, I think the main thing I try and do as a content creator is just show every part of the journey for me. So if I'm having a tough time, hopefully the one thing that people will know about myself and my channel, my social media, is that I'm always really honest and open with everyone when things are bad, but also when things are really good, and I hope that by sharing that, it really helps other people to I guess understand that it's okay to talk about it and things. So for tonight, for example, tonight I was meant to be at the Football Content Awards. I was finalist, and pretty gutted that I'm unable to be there, unfortunately, due to some health bits and pieces that I had to have done. So it just made getting to London very difficult, and back again. And that's been pretty difficult. But I shared that online so people can, they can see, I'm not sat here going, I'm just a finalist, I'm so happy to be a finalist, and then not mentioning the fact that I can't go, or that it's disappointing that I can't go. I think it's just good to show everybody all sides of what your ups and your downs, so that they can live it with you, really, and understand a little better that it's okay to to enjoy. What I try and do is I don't try and gloat very often when things are going really good. That's just my nature anyway. I've never been somebody that I'll happily celebrate a goal when one of my players has scored, for instance, but I'm not a big kind of, all of this is going my way type of thing. And maybe that's helped with people who follow my content over the years. But I think it is just a case of really showing the highs and the lows, and hopefully that's what people have enjoyed about my content as the season goes. Because as I say, 9 times out of 10, people enjoy the videos where I've done where I've done very poorly, more so than they enjoy the ones where I've done very well. So yeah, I think people like to see how you cope with those game weeks, and I think just being as open as you can and being as given as much discussion as you can around things. So I've always been quite open about everything that's happened with my dad, and anyone who's in a similar situation, or they're suffering in the same way. I hope that my DMs will always be open for anybody going through something similar. And FPL helped me loads, and the FPL community helped me loads throughout all of that. So I wouldn't have got through it, I don't think, quite as well as I did without all of you guys. So if I can do the same in giving some of that back, then I will always try to.
Beautiful. Dan, do you want to add to that, pal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, really. I mean, the way I deal with it is if I'm having a bad game week, I don't like to just hide and not talk on Twitter, because I'm quite active. I like to support and help everyone else who's having a bad game week. And I think for me, mentally, the FPL has been amazing for myself. It's be able to give something back for football, as I used to play football professionally myself for Swindon, and it kind of failed a little bit. But to be able to get back into it, to be able to give something, I kind of put that pressure on myself. And then last year, having founded the FPL way, it was a massive jump, and I wasn't expecting it to grow as quickly as I thought it was going to be. But and it was a lot of pressure. But I reminded myself, this is a game, and you have to remember that to yourself, and yeah, I think.
Oh, unfortunately, Dan disconnected. I think we'll move on though. But Shanoise, it's an absolutely wonderful question, and also I'd like to give some feedback. So I compartmentalize the game as what it is, which is a game. And similar like yourself, this is my third year in FPL, but I've been a fantasy football player for like almost 20 years now. And I compartmentalize it as a recreation that I very much enjoy. I've been very fortunate enough to be part of a few projects where, I get paid for some of them as well within FPL, simply because of my day job. But the thing is when I have a bad game week or when I have a great game week, I almost kind of think about it for the one day only, and then I'll move on to things that are higher in my priority, because ultimately this does not compare to normal life. I mean, I'm fortunate enough, married, 2 kids, mortgages, cars, family, and all that kind of stuff, and career, of course. It does not stand anywhere near to those priorities for me. Sure, I put a lot of hours in, as a lot of you will know, but possibly too many hours, and I get teased about it constantly, but I love it. I love the banter. But I think at the end of the day, very cheesy, but you got to constitute it for what it is, which is a game. Now, I'm in a very different position to someone like Nimfria, who's actually doing it as a career, and I'm very happy for her, and she knows that, and I fully support her. So maybe the dynamic is very different, because this is also her job as well. She's got a career out of this. So, but I guess it depends on the individual. But one thing, I will never ever allow FPL to dictate a day. It will be a moment, either good or bad, and then I'll just move on. Really, I think that's possibly what I advocate to people who also DM me, and I just say to them, well, this is my thinking. I won't tell you what you do, because that's not my right, but this is the kind of thinking process I go through. But Shanoise, it's an absolutely wonderful question, and I think we absolutely have to think about the balance between FPL and mental health. So we'll move on now to Just Gabe. So Gabe, how are you, man? All the way from America. How are you, bud?
Hey, it's actually still morning here. So good morning to everyone for the next 3 minutes.
Good morning.
Really enjoyed Hi, Nim. Nice to hear you. Nice
Morning,
to
mate.
see
You too,
you.
buddy.
Hey Dan. I'm glad I'm coming in this moment because I had quite a difficult season last season, and there was a moment where I came up with this concept and I just kind of introduced it to my friends and I would mention it on the show, and it's the FPL beach. I know Nim, I had mentioned it in chats and stuff, and actually it really worked for me. Just whenever like I was upset, I would feel like it's almost like being lost. And when I felt lost, I would just kind of just envision the FPL beach, put some sunglasses on, and the next wave is going to roll in. And that also helped me kind of develop something that we do on Net That Hall now that I actually put a lot of effort into it. I find it's become quite dear to me, and that's the FPL philosophy of the week. And on the show, I find I studied philosophy in university, and so I like to read it, and I find a quote, and I kind of relay a philosophical quote to FPL just to kind of reset our minds right before the game week begins, and just kind of like refocus. I think us on process. Like in preparation for the game week, we look into the sport that we love so deeply and we put so many hours into it because we love it, to then reduce that whole experience and all of those hours during the week to a singular result, not only is a mistake, it's kind of unfair and harsh on ourselves. So I think just kind of like remembering those things of process helps us kind of have a broader lens.
No doubt. Nim, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think it's taken me some time to get to that place. If I'm honest, Gabe. I think the first couple of years I was under so much pressure and under so much kind of, I think, drive to do so well and to prove myself and all these sorts of things that literally every weekend was like, this is it, no, build yourself up. And then when it would go horribly wrong, it'd be like, that's it, my weekend's ruined and everything's ruined and I have to relive this like all week now by talking about it and things like that. But I'm definitely at a place now where I've definitely grown as I've got older and as I've grown through the FPL community and with other people and met new people and new people like Ray and Fergie and things have come into my life where they are able to, as you say, remember it's just a game and just take that kind of pressure off of themselves. It's immensely helped me to get back to how I used to play the game and a lot more enjoyment in playing the game and just remembering that it is just that. Of course, I still have the moments where I kick myself. I think we all have that regardless, but I'm definitely more able to look at it now in a week and go, oh yeah, I should have done that, or that was brilliant. I'm so glad I did that, and enjoy it more as I used to, rather than just kind of reflect on every minor detail of how good or how bad it was.
Yeah, I'd love to add to the. Oh, Gabe, after you, please. Then I'll go. After you go.
Well, no, I was actually going to bring it back to FPL. So if you have something to say here,
no,
go
I
ahead.
do. So for those who don't know, FPL Lens or Gabriel is part of the Net That Hall crew, and they've been kind enough to want me to help facilitate a bit of their works. And I've got to know Gabe a bit. And Gabe, I mean, in a very short time, I like to consider that we're friends. We get on very well. And what attracted me, if you like, to communicate with Gabe is how philosophical he is. And I'm not a man who lives by philosophy, but I'm a man who enjoys philosophical quotes that endear themselves to me and my psyche. So I'm a huge fan of Brucey and a huge fan of Muhammad Ali for what they represented and the way they lived their life. And a lot of their philosophical quotes I felt was a depiction of the way that they were. So I fully relate to Gabe. And also, I think what helps me is, like, for example, I have a chat with Dan and Silver, Nathan, founder and co-founder of the FPL Way, and we'll just banter each other sometimes on a bad week, or when we're actually having a bad week, we'll be there to be supportive as well. And I always feel like if you're having a good or bad week, you could share it with your friends as well, and it's a good way of releasing, and also a good way of keeping you grounded as well. I felt that's really, really helped me. But Gabe, before we go to your your FPL question itself, Dan, maybe you have some feedback regarding this topic.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I lost connection before I was rambling on. But I just want to point out, just on a positive note, that the Twitter community has been a real positive for myself. I never knew that the community was as big as it was since I joined last season, and for someone like myself who's got dyslexia and trying to build a project and put myself in point pressures like this, trying to speak up, because I feel like I do have good opinions, but it's trying to explain myself correctly and trying to give out a lot to all those managers out there. And it's for me, it's been amazing. I've grown so much as a person. I've met some great friends, Ray, FPL Casual, Aidan, and Nathan. They've been amazing. So I'll finish off that on that positive note, really. And Gabriel, crack on, mate. You just get into FPL.
Cool, thanks for that, Dan. So let's get us back on track as the game week quickly approaches here. So I've been taking a look at Huang and his influence on Wolves for matchups this week, and I noticed something interesting. When Adama was playing on that left side, Jimenez played more on the right. So kind of Laj's tactical setup was to isolate Adama, and that wasn't working for several reasons. But what Huang has done is Huang has pulled Jimenez, so Jimenez is actually combining with him. People have been talking about Huang's understanding with Jimenez. It's because of a tactical shift that has come. But a word of caution with Huang is he has historically been inconsistent in his career. And that's kind of what's kept him from starting positions in other teams. I forget who it was that mentioned his kind of lackluster play for South Korea. So there's a risk there in that it's tough to move away from him. There aren't many places to go if you have Huang, and he begins to show some inconsistency. Maybe Adama comes back in, or he gets rotated. I think there is significant risk with Huang. And then I just wanted to ask people a question. Maybe I'd like to get Nim's thoughts on a lot of people, especially on Wildcard, are getting rid of Ben Rahma. And especially for those that got him early at 6.0, I wonder, I'm just questioning that move, because I think the value could still be there, especially if he's not playing so much in Europe just yet. Wonder what everyone's thoughts are on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Nim.
Yeah, so I actually have been considering Ben Rama's place in my team also. And I am a lot like you, Gabe. I think he deserves a few more game weeks. I think he deserves a bit more time in my team for me to really decide whether or not it's time to go. For me, his stats are still pretty decent. He still looks on the eye test quite good each week, even though he might not be delivering right now. But for his price and for the potential in him at the moment, I'm happy to keep hold of him. But I just want to quickly circle back to Dan there. I 100% agree with you, Dan, on the FPL community. And I too have dyslexia, believe it or not. So if anyone ever needs to talk to anyone about that, both myself and Dan will be able to help you out with that. So yeah, passing back to you, Ray.
No, guys, this is a really enlightening conversation, and I've been in a few spaces like this, like with Sonaldo, who, bless him, I think it's 4 a.m. in Korea. He just DM'd me and said, "Pal, I can't talk," and I'm like, "Don't worry, man. Just him being around is amazing." 4 a.m., guys. The man is committed. I'm sure his girlfriend is delighted with him. Um, yeah, a lot of yeah, pretty much bang on the money with the emojis, guys. So I think we'll go for the 2 more questions with Vidyasagar and Premi, and then I think we'll kind of look to wrap it up. It's been wonderful. Nim, I mean, I knew it was going to be fantastic, but it far exceeded my expectations. So thanks as always, buddy. I owe you a wine,
Ooh,
definitely, when we
thank you.
eventually meet up.
Rosé, please.
Yeah, hell yeah, we'll get them all.
Looking good.
Vidyasagar, let's go to you, pal. How are you?
Thank you, Rick. Good evening to all of you. Uh, I just had a quick question about Ismaila Sarr. So I have him in my team right now. But looking at Watford's upcoming fixtures in the next 10 game weeks, it's all Reds. So what do you guys think about Ismaila Sarr? And I've also looked at his in the game weeks where he has produced. So it's always been against the bottom table sides. He hasn't done much against the bigger sides. So yeah, so I just wanted to uh, like understand what you guys think about it. So yeah.
Nim, your thoughts, and then Dan.
I think this one's a tough one because he's a player in form, and I am somebody who tends to hold on to my players in form regardless of their fixtures, which seems funny me saying that when I've just sold Ronaldo for Lukaku. But I felt like, like for like, they're kind of hoping with the better fixtures. So it's a bit of a tough one because it's not like Sarr hasn't been producing for you. The fixtures are slightly tougher now. I guess my question back to you would be, who are you really considering to replace him with, and who exactly, are you thinking of in terms of going forward through these tougher fixtures?
Uh, I was looking at Townsend recently. Like he's been playing well, and with DCL coming back, I think his assist potential goes up. So I was looking at Townsend. Yeah, I'll also save up some cash, so that could be used elsewhere. So yeah, that was my idea. Yeah.
I think then you've probably answered your own question there. Really, if Townsend is somebody who I guess takes your fancy and it's going to give you some cash in the bank, then it sounds like a good punt, if any, and I don't dislike it at all.
Thank you. Okay.
Dan, your thoughts on that? Do you kind of concur with him?
Yeah,
or do you
I
have
concur
something
with
else?
him. Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Just don't blame us if Sarr scores a hat trick this week.
A man of very few words. That's why we pay him the big bucks, Dan.
Just
He's
simple, nice. That's it.
Just come back with a yes and no, and the man is rolling in the cash. Guys, there've been a few have requested, but I'm sorry, I did want to keep it to about an hour and 15. Keep you guys wanting more. That's the plan. So let's go to the final question with Premi, who had a fantastic space earlier, and he was very kind enough to push all his attendees to this space. So Premi, always appreciate you, pal, and go ahead.
Thanks, Ray. And great space so far. I've been enjoying listening to the views from both the co-hosts as well, Nymphria and Dan. My question was a little bit more long term. I've been playing FPL for a few seasons, and I remember the first season. I think I believed that you had to pick a formation, and it had to make sense in the sense that you couldn't have three center backs or you couldn't have three wingers. So that's how I started. My question to you is, when the November-December fixture congestion starts, I've worked with this theory that it's a good time to switch to probably from wing backs or full backs who are running up and down the flank to central defenders who probably are not so active and hence little less prone to muscle injuries or rotation risk. What's your experience been so far, and how do you try to play it?
Yeah, Nymphia, you please answer.
So I actually am quite a reactive to the season kind of person. So I completely understand where you're coming from with the wing backs and the fullbacks, and it's always definitely one to keep an eye on. I think as long as he's fit, somebody like Trent, however, I'd struggle to sell regardless of what time of year it was, really. But I tend to just, I think, go with the flow, because it does feel like every season offers something slightly different in terms of, you know, what we get in terms of whether we should go all in on defence, whether we should go all in midfield or up top, and whether we should be spending lots of money up top, etc. I mean, I don't think many of us could have been sat here last season thinking we'd be debating about whether we should be playing Ronaldo or Lukaku in our teams. So I think there are things where I revert to type. Like I'm very much a 3-4-3 player, and it's quite unusual for me that I'm sat on a 3-5-2 at the moment, or a 4-4-2. It's very unusual for me. So I suspect I will move back to my comfort zone as things get a little more difficult towards that congestion period, and move back to a 3-4-3, I suspect. But in terms of everything else, I tend to just go with the flow, really.
Wonderful. Before we wrap it up, Dan, is there something you want to add or anything at all, bud?
Yeah, I'll go with the flow too.
Again, while we pay him.
Yeah, I was joking. mate. I was joking.
You're
such
Love
a
it.
dickhead.
Man, I don't know.
You're
I was joking. First of all, I didn't quite. Wasn't sure about the question, to be honest. But in terms, I guess, managing style, is that what we're working on? Is that what we're talking about here?
I think the question was closer to about the fixture congestion that's coming up November, December, and would you how do you typically handle it?
Oh, okay. He went again. He drops the mic and leaves the stage, guys.
I think
But,
if I could just interrupt there, Ray, I think
please, of course.
the easiest thing with the fixture congestion, I find, is to leave yourself as much flexibility as you can. So if you can leave some money in the bank going into that period, and if you can leave your team in a state of like pivot as much as you can, then you can react to any situation that appears when it appears.
Pivot.
But yes, if you can do that, even if you can't necessarily have the money in the bank, if you know exactly which player you can take the money from to make that move, then I think that's probably the best way to hit that congestion period, is to just have as much flexibility as you possibly can, so that you can literally be right there to react when you need to, if that's any help at all.
That's absolutely brilliant. So, guys, I think we'll wrap it up now. I think we did 75 minutes, which is brilliant. Dan, any kind of closing words, pal, before I kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, sorry about my connection, guys.
Oh, he's back.
I'm back. Sorry. It's been brilliant space. Thank you, Nafria. Thank you for coming. Our first.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Our first guest. It's been really nice.
You've broken my space's virginity.
I don't know what to say.
Orcs.
But no.
And we're out of here. No, okay. Fantastic. So, yeah, first of all, Nim did me a proper solid here. Really appreciate it, pal. I hope you enjoyed it. Was it all right? Because I think it's the first one.
Yeah, first one. No, thank you so much, Ray. Always love chatting to you any day of the week, any time of the day. You know how it is. So cheers for having me on, buddy.
Absolutely. So we'll wrap it up here, guys. Once again, if you're not following Nimfria, what the hell is wrong with you? It's very true. She's like the first lady of FPL. Absolutely brilliant videos. So, Dan, could you mute, pal? Sorry. Cheers, man. Absolutely brilliant videos on her YouTube channel. I'll make sure when I kind of tweet out the picture to include her. Obviously, I'll tag her and also share the link on her YouTube channel. I've had the pleasure of being on there a couple of times. She has this fantastic weekly 5 things prior to every game week that she does with Fergie, who's part of Fantasy Football Hub. Fantastic guy, fantastic contributor, and the Sun Dream Team winner last year, and I've been playing that game for like 14, 15 years. Also, please make sure to follow myself, follow Nimfria, as I said before, follow Dan, who's the founder of the FPL Way. I'm a head of ops at the FPL Way, and also Silver at the bottom. He's co-founder and basically the graphics genius behind the website. Please follow at the FPL Way as well, which is, like I said, one-stop shop for all things FPL. We got really cool tools at injuries and suspensions, which is automatically updated, I think, every 6 or 7 hours. I'm sure Nathan will correct me. Please also make sure to follow Gabe from Net That Hall. Wonderful guy, great content, great writer. Please follow as well FPL Junkie, Vidyasagar, Lama, Sonaldo, Skywalker, McTavish, Bricky, and especially got to go with Dan Bennett, who we are going to have next week. I know he's currently listening right now. He is criminally underfollowed, guys. He has been playing for, I think, 14 years. He's got 9 top 10K finishes, and also he is 12th in the FPL Hall of Fame. The man is absolutely royalty when it comes to FPL. So I am going to bark outside his door every single day to make sure his followers go up, because the guy's brilliant, and really looking forward to doing the spaces with him next week. So once again, guys, have a wonderful, wonderful evening or morning, wherever you are. Please make sure to follow the content, as I said before. And good luck with your game week 8. And of course, our DMs are always open, especially when it comes to stuff like mental health, balancing that and FPL. So once again, Nimfria, thank you so much, bud. And guys, take care. Have a great evening.
Good luck, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys. Lots of luck.